Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. For those of you I've yet to meet, my name is Tracy Cook and I'm ProKids Executive Director. I was on a path of building my family and career years ago when someone showed me a different world within our community that I had never seen. In 1992, I became a ProKids CASA volunteer, a court-appointed special advocate. My parents had tried to teach me that justice was worth fighting for, and I went to law school to learn how to be a lawyer, but it was actually volunteering at ProKids that truly taught me how to advocate. A year later, I joined the staff as an attorney, and I stay committed to this work because of our amazing children. As a CASA volunteer, I was assigned to speak up for children who'd been abused and neglected and were placed in foster care. My role was to get to know them, to really understand their needs, and then advocate for them. I was privileged to work closely with ProKids staff, including my volunteer supervisor and a ProKids attorney, and together we were an advocacy team. Our first job was to make sure the children were safe. Then we needed to make certain they had access to the services they needed to help them heal. And what they're healing from is trauma. Trauma from being abused and neglected, trauma from being taken from the only family they'd ever known. We needed to advocate passionately and persuasively on behalf of our children's best interests before Hamilton County Juvenile Court, which oversees all the children in the child protection system. And ultimately, we made recommendations to court about who should raise the children. So over this span of time in this work, I have witnessed children with broken bodies and spirits, and also I've witnessed the power of resilience. For more than 20 years, I've been immersed in this. And what I know now, to the core of my being, is that we have to save the children, and we have the power to do so. We can't look away from abused and neglected children, like the two baby girls who died right here in Cincinnati in March at the hands of their parents. We can't simply hope someone else will fix it. I know it's painful for all of us and heartbreaking to see this tragic news, but the truth is we are not helpless. We have power. When you really think about it, what is at the core of everything that is beautiful and everything that is tragic is family. Your family, my family, family a block away from here or a family miles away from here. It's our families together that make up our community. And our community is the true legacy we leave our kids. When I was a child, my family would go camping, and on the last day at a campsite, my father told my brother and me to absolutely scour the area to search for and collect all the things that didn't belong in nature. I asked, why do we need to do this? Because none of us had littered. And my father told me we had an obligation to leave this place better than when we found it. We owe the same to our children and to their future children. So what is it that we have to search for and throw away? It's everything that breaks kids and puts them on a path to become broken men, broken women, and broken parents. I'll admit that may sound overwhelming, but each of us can start by shrinking the change, shrinking the problem. When you were coming here today, imagine if as you were driving, you saw a baby about 1 year old standing alone on the side of the road crying. Thoughts would absolutely flood your mind. You would think, what is going on? Is he going to step into the road? And with your mind racing and probably your heart pounding, you would stop your car, get out, and rescue him. You wouldn't say to yourself, this is overwhelming. There's nothing I can do. I don't know where to begin. There's no question you would rush to act. So how do we unleash the power of our urgent human response to a child who's equally at risk as the baby on the side of the road, but just happens to be behind closed doors? ProKids exists because of children right here in Cincinnati who've been abused and neglected so severely they've been taken from their families. In Hamilton County alone, 2,700 children are in the child protection system each year. ProKids' vision is a safe, permanent, and nurturing home for every child. And we work to achieve this vision by mobilizing the community to break this vicious cycle of child abuse and neglect. We recruit, train, and support community volunteers to speak up for them and help guide them to safe environments where they can thrive. So since 1981, ProKids has served thousands of children. Now, CASA volunteers are amazing people who bring gifts of time, common sense, and caring. CASAs are on the front line every single day, visiting children, talking to social workers, calling therapists and teachers, and working with all of these individuals to create plans to get them to the safe, permanent, and nurturing homes they deserve. Now, we don't do this work alone. ProKids volunteers and staff work closely with all sorts of hardworking, busy professionals to create plans for these kids. We also work to create alliances within the child protection system because we know that's what has to happen to maximize outcomes for our children, and we want everyone to pull together for them. Now, the reward we do of the work we do at ProKids is awesome, and a wonderful thing happened recently for a beautiful little 2-year-old girl we serve. Her name is Brittany, and she came into the system as an infant. She had been left with people who were a danger to her, and she was discovered alone in an apartment hallway. No one knows exactly how she got there, how long she'd been there, or what had happened to her prior to being left. Her father was unknown. Her mother, who refused mental health treatment, drifted in and out of her life. So when Brittany's case came to ProKids, we knew that she had some health concerns. So the CASA volunteer assigned was named Amy, and Amy was an RN. When it later became clear that Brittany would need heart surgery, Amy quietly did what needed to be done to make sure Brittany had exactly the care she needed. Amy supported Brittany's first-time foster care mom. She went to all the medical appointments. She even secured the county's authorization for surgery, preventing it from being postponed. Amy was at the hospital for the surgery, and she was there for every step of Brittany's full recovery. But Amy was also at court with ProKids staff advocating on behalf of Brittany's best interests, asking the court to free her for adoption. Just a few weeks ago, Amy was there too, when Brittany's adoption by her loving foster care mom was finalized. So I am here this morning to thank the ProKids community for being there for Brittany too, and also to invite others to stand up for our children. ProKids volunteers, our staff and supporters have stood up and said, I am for the child. They say, I am for the child who's fearful and anxious because she never knows when she might be hit, who's hungry and abandoned. I'm for the child who feeds, bathes, and protects his little brothers and sisters, who moves from home to home, and who is still desperately waiting for a childhood. It was inspiring this morning to see 30 more community members stand up and say, I am for the child. Now, after they took their oath, you may have noticed they delivered pictures to some of the tables. Why didn't everyone get one? Because today there are so many foster care children right here in Hamilton County waiting for the community's help. And as long as these children are simply the responsibility of a system and we don't see them and treat them as our own children, then children like Brittany won't be in the kind of safe, permanent, nurturing home that every single child deserves. And the cycle will continue. Why? Because the foster care system was designed to meet the needs of children for a short time, not to raise them, and it is overburdened. There have been deep cuts in the system, and many Hamilton County Jobs and Family Services staff have been laid off. These cuts could not come at a worse time when more children are entering the system. And these children who are entering have been traumatized by abuse and neglect and by the loss of everyone that they hold dear. There are so many unanswered questions in their lives. How will this trauma affect them? Will they self-destruct or lash out? Will they ever heal? Will we take action today, or will we leave it to the next generation to deal with the aftermath? The fundamental truth is it is not an agency, it is not a system that cares for children, it's a committed community. Now, since we began telling ProKids' story and asking for your help, you have actually shown us what's possible. Thanks to our Friends of Children's Society members who've made a multi-year pledge to ProKids and all our supporters, we've been able to add additional passionate and dedicated staff and volunteers. We deeply appreciate your support. Our supporters understand that mobilizing the community to help these children is highly effective. We've doubled the number of children we serve. Last year, 185 CASA volunteers spoke up for 605 children. And abuse and neglect stopped for 98% of the kids we served in 2014, a rate we've maintained for almost 2 decades. But there is a lot more to do. Our urgent goal is to get to the community's help to all the children in need. Reaching this vision means breaking a cycle of abuse and neglect that has spanned generations, but also creating a new cycle of growing up safe and confident. So how do we get there as a community? With more people spreading the word about our children, with more volunteers stepping forward to serve, and with more staff to train and guide them. Doesn't every child deserve to have someone who says, I am for this child? Would all the CASAs in the room please stand? Thank you to them and all the ones that couldn't be here today for giving our children a voice. I will hope that you will join them today and say, I am for the child. And I hope that you will realize that the ProKids difference can be you. Thank you.